All right, so in the last video, we talked about the compound inequalities, but the ones that are called the OR inequalities, where it's like x is less than 5 or it's greater than 7, right? So two different possibilities, and you saw that the graph actually pointed in opposite directions. So this is the opposite of that, is what happens when your inequalities go towards each other, okay? Now, it's a little bit trickier than the OR inequalities, because you have to be a little bit careful. Sometimes they will just write it out like this. X is less than 2 and x is greater than -1. So sometimes they'll write it out like that, but more than likely they'll write it as one full statement. It'll look something like this, which might be kind of strange. They'll put x in the middle and they'll say, well, it has to be less than 2, but it has to be more than -1. So see how that's one giant statement, but there's just like three pieces to it? So that's the difference between and versus or. Or inequalities, they'll always write it out as two separate ones. And inequalities, they'll usually write it out as one combined statement. The reason why they do that is because both of these have to be true. It has to be less than 2 and it has to be more than -1. Okay? Then when you graph this thing, okay, the two numbers we care about are -1 and 2. So let's put some marks on here. Okay, so let's put -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. They both don't have the bar, so they're both going to be open circles. Now the trick here, let me see if I can make a box to cover some stuff up. So the trick here is when you're dealing with these is think of it as two separate things. So first of all, I'm going to cover this up just so you don't see it for a second. Oops. Okay, so if we graph this one, x is less than 2. So an open circle at 2, we know it has to go to the left. So that's good enough. Okay, now to visualize that, I'm going to switch this over to the other one. Now, again, this one's backwards, right? Because we usually like seeing x on the left-hand side. So when you're thinking about it, you got to remember that this sign is actually pointing the opposite direction. Okay, so at -1, it's going to be an open circle, and it's actually going to the right. Now, this should always happen. Notice the graphs, they're going towards each other. So whenever it's in this format, where it's an and inequality, you always want to make sure that the graphs are going towards each other. Otherwise, something's wrong. Okay. All right. Let's look at an example that how to solve these things, because that can be a little bit strange as well. So go and write down the first example. -4 is less than 2x minus 2 less than +2. Okay. Now using the same box, if I were to cover this piece up, that's just a normal question, right? Same thing if I were to cover this piece up, that's just a normal question. So the way we're going to treat this is kind of like we're doing two separate questions, but we're doing them at the exact same time. Okay, so I'm going to draw these lines here. So this time there's actually three different sections. There's the left, the right, and the middle. And essentially you want to get the x by itself in the middle. Okay, so again, if I were to cover this up one more time, looking at that piece, the way you get rid of first would be that -2, right? And the rule says to get rid of a -2, well, you would add 2 to both sides. The same thing is going to be true here, except you're just going to add it to all three sides. So essentially, whatever you do to the middle, you do to all three sections. So again, it's like we're doing two problems at the exact same time. Okay, so line all the way across. Okay, so leftovers. On the left side, -4 plus 2, -2. Okay, symbol hasn't changed. These canceled, so we have 2x in the middle. And on the right, 2 plus 2 gives us 4. Okay, now again, look in the middle, we want the x by itself. So just like if this was a normal question, if this wasn't here, you would get rid of that 2 by dividing. So same thing. We're going to get rid of that 2 with division. Whatever you do in the middle, you're going to do everywhere. So divide this by 2 and this by 2. Okay, so 2's cancel out in the middle. We get the x by itself in the center, which is what we wanted. Okay, the right side, 4 divided by 2 is 2. On the left side, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Okay, and that would be our official answer. Okay, so it's again, it's like you're doing two questions, but at the exact same time. And as far as the graph, I mean, this is what we actually graphed right above. Let me scroll up a little bit. So you can see the graph above. My suggestion when graphing these things is if you're confused with the graphing, grab a piece of paper, cover up half of it, cover up this part of the answer, graph that, and then cover up this part and graph that. Just remember that this one's backwards. And again, the lines should go towards each other. Okay, that's one of the key features of an and inequality. Okay. All right. I want to put one on the screen for you to try, and then we'll check your answer afterwards. Okay. So the one I want you to try is this one: negative 12 less than 2x plus 8 less than or equal to 18. All right, go ahead and pause the video at this point. Try this question out. Remember, whatever you do to the middle, do to both of the sides, okay? And then also make sure you do a graph at the end. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and try it out. All right, so hopefully you tried the question out. So this is just kind of checking your work along the way. So we're working from the middle outwards. So we want to get rid of that 8. So it's a positive, so we'll subtract it. Again, wherever you do one side, do every single piece. Okay, leftovers. In the center, we have that 2x. We have that less than or equal to. On the right, 18 minus 8 gives us 10. And then the symbol over here. And on the left side, use a calculator if the negatives mess you up. Negative 12 minus 8 gives you negative 20. Okay? And then get rid of the 2 from the center. We can divide it. Whatever you do in the middle, do on both edges. So divide by 2, divide by 2. 2's cancel. Still have x in the middle. Now our symbols have not flipped around because we have not divided by a negative number. Okay, that was our new rule, right? So that still hasn't been activated. So less than or equal to 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. And negative 20 divided by 2 gives us negative 10. So that is our official answer to this question. Now for the graph, I'm going to show you a little trick. If the numbers are far apart like this and you don't want to draw a bunch of little tiny lines, it's kind of a way to fake your graph, but it shows enough information to get the idea across. So what you can do is on one edge, you can put like 3 tick marks. And let's put our answer, one of our answers in the center. So let's put negative 10 right there, which would mean this would be negative 9, this would be negative 11. Now let's leave some space kind of in the middle and put another 3 marks over here. And then we'll put our other answer in the center over here. So this would be 5, 4, and 6. And we're not going to put any marks in the middle. This is kind of just telling whoever's looking at your work that we're kind of skipping some numbers because there's a lot of little tick marks. Okay? All right, so again, if it helps to visualize it, grab your paper, cover up half of it. So for this one, it's less than or equal to 5. So it has a bar, so it's a solid dot at 5. And we know it's going to the left. Okay, and then change your paper to the other side. And this one does not have a bar, so it's an open dot at 10, a negative 10. Remember, this one's backwards, so remember that it's actually going to the right. And remember, it should satisfy our condition of these and inequalities, they should point towards each other. Okay, so that's how you approach these questions. Again, they can be tricky, but if you take the time with them, it's the same steps as before. It's just kind of like we're doing 2 questions at the same exact time. And we'll be working on these in the next couple of days as well.